You're not confused. You're not broken. And you're definitely not alone. But there's a chance that right now, your mind is working against you in ways you haven't even noticed. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain was designed to protect you. And sometimes that protection comes at a cost. Today, we're going to talk about 10 thinking traps that quietly reduce your mental clarity. These aren't rare psychological disorders. These are everyday patterns. Things you do when you're stressed, when you're uncertain, when you care too much about getting things right. And by the end of this video, you won't just recognize them. You'll understand why they happen. And that understanding alone will start to set you free. Let's begin. Number 1. All or nothing thinking. Have you ever worked really hard on something, made one small mistake, and immediately thought, "I've ruined everything"? That's not you being dramatic. That's your brain falling into one of the most common thinking traps in psychology, what researchers call black and white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. Psychology says the human mind loves categories. It feels safer to see things as either good or bad, success or failure, right or wrong. It takes much more mental energy to sit in the gray area, to accept that something can be mostly good with a few flaws. So your brain shortcuts to extremes. The problem is that life doesn't exist in extremes. Relationships, careers, personal growth, they all live in that messy, complicated middle ground. And when your thinking can't go there, your clarity disappears. The insight here is this: the moment you catch yourself thinking everything is ruined, that's not reality. That's a shortcut your brain made when it got overwhelmed. Reality is almost always more nuanced than your worst moment suggests. Number 2. Catastrophizing. You send a message and they don't reply for 2 hours. And before you know it, your mind has already constructed a full story. They're angry. The relationship is over. Something terrible is about to happen. Psychologists call this catastrophizing. It's the habit of jumping from a small, uncertain situation directly to the worst possible outcome, and then treating that imagined outcome as if it's already real. Research suggests that catastrophizing is deeply connected to anxiety. When your nervous system has been trained by past experiences to expect danger, it starts scanning for threats everywhere. And when it finds even a small piece of uncertainty, it fills in the gaps with fear. Here's what's important to understand. Catastrophizing isn't weakness. It was once a survival mechanism. Your mind learned that preparing for the worst meant you'd never be caught off guard. But in modern life, this pattern doesn't protect you. It exhausts you. Mental clarity begins the moment you ask yourself, is this what's actually happening? Or is this what I'm afraid might happen? Number 3. Mind reading. You walk into a room and someone glances at you briefly, then looks away. And instantly you know. They don't like you. They're judging you. They're thinking something negative. Except you don't actually know that. You assumed it. Psychology calls this mind reading, the cognitive distortion where we believe we know what other people are thinking without any real evidence. And most of the time, what we read in others' minds is simply a reflection of our own inner fears and insecurities. Studies show that people who struggle with low self-esteem or social anxiety are especially prone to mind reading. They project their inner critic outward, and then believe the world sees them through that same harsh lens. The painful irony is that while you're busy convinced someone is judging you, they're most likely thinking about their own problems entirely. You are not a burden. You are not the center of everyone's criticism. And the story your mind tells about what others think, that story belongs to you, not to them. Number 4. Emotional reasoning. I feel like a failure, so I must be one. This single sentence captures one of the most powerful thinking traps of all. Emotional reasoning. It's the pattern of believing that because you feel something strongly, it must be true. Psychologists explain that emotions are real experiences, but they are not always accurate measurements of reality. You can feel deeply unlovable and still be deeply loved. You can feel completely incompetent and still be remarkably capable. The feeling is valid, but the conclusion your mind draws from it may not be. The reason this trap is so convincing is that emotions feel like evidence. When something hurts, it feels true. When you feel ashamed, it feels like proof. But feelings are data, not destiny. They tell you something important about your inner state, not about your objective worth or the facts of a situation. The growth begins when you learn to say, "I feel this way, and I'm going to choose what to believe separately from how I feel right now." Number 5, overgeneralization. Something goes wrong once, and suddenly, it always goes wrong. Someone disappoints you, and now, people always disappoint you. You fail at something, and your mind immediately files it as proof of a pattern that defines your entire life. This is overgeneralization, and it's one of the quietest ways your brain reduces clarity. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy shows that overgeneralization typically starts after painful experiences. When something hurts badly enough, your brain doesn't want to be hurt again. So it turns one experience into a rule, a way of predicting the future so you can avoid that pain. The words that signal this trap are always, never, everyone, and nobody. Whenever those words appear in your inner dialogue, pay attention. Because one event, no matter how painful, is not the whole story. Your life is not a pattern of permanent failure. It is a series of separate moments, each with its own meaning, and none of them define all of you. Number 6, the filtering trap. You receive 10 compliments and 1 piece of criticism. What do you remember? The criticism. What do you think about later? The criticism. What feels most true? The criticism. Psychologists call this mental filtering, the tendency to focus exclusively on the negative details of a situation while filtering out everything positive. This isn't stubbornness or ingratitude, it's actually a neurological pattern. The human brain has what researchers call a negativity bias. It's wired to give more weight to negative information than positive. This evolved because in ancient environments, noticing threats was more important than noticing pleasures. One missed predator was fatal. One missed berry was not. But in modern life, this bias becomes a trap. It makes your inner world disproportionately dark. It makes you feel like nothing is going well, even when a great deal is. The clarity practice here is simple but powerful. Make yourself name the 10 compliments. Don't let one criticism erase them. Your brain will fight you on this. Let it. Do it anyway. Number 7. Should statements "I should be further along by now." I should be happier. I should be able to handle this. Does any of that sound familiar? Psychology says that should statements are one of the most common sources of internal suffering. They create an invisible measuring stick, one that you didn't consciously choose. And they hold every aspect of your life up against it, constantly finding you lacking. The problem with should is that it often comes from external sources, from parents, culture, social media, comparison. It's not usually born from your own authentic values. It's borrowed from someone else's expectations and then turned inward as self-attack. Research in self-compassion, particularly the work of psychologist Kristin Neff, shows that replacing harsh self-judgment with understanding dramatically improves emotional well-being and, interestingly, also improves performance. The invitation here is not to remove all standards. It's to ask, where did this standard come from? And does it actually belong to me? Because a life built on borrowed shoulds will never feel like your own. Number 8. Personalization. Your friend seems distant. Your boss seems stressed. Someone gives a short reply. And somehow, you decide it's because of you. Something you did. Something you said. Something you are. Psychologists call this personalization, the tendency to take excessive responsibility for things that are outside of your control or simply not about you. This is especially common in people who grew up in environments where they had to manage other people's emotions. If you spent your childhood trying to keep a parent calm or making yourself small so others felt comfortable, you learned that everything emotional happening around you was somehow connected to you. Your nervous system took that lesson seriously. And now, even in adulthood, when someone seems unhappy, your brain immediately asks, "What did I do?" Here is the truth that will slowly free you. Most of what other people feel is about their own inner world. You are not responsible for other people's moods, reactions, or emotional states. You can care about them without owning them. Taking up less space does not keep the people around you safer. It just makes your world smaller. Number 9, the comparison spiral. You open your phone. You see someone's achievement, someone's body, someone's relationship, their apparent happiness. And for a moment, your own life, which was perfectly fine 60 seconds ago, suddenly feels inadequate. This is the comparison spiral. And psychology says it's one of the greatest threats to mental clarity in the modern age. Research by social psychologist Leon Festinger showed that humans naturally engage in social comparison. It's how we evaluate ourselves and our place in the world. But the social media era has taken this natural tendency and weaponized it. We are now comparing our complete, complicated, ordinary lives to the most curated, filtered, highlight reel moments of thousands of other people simultaneously. It was never a fair comparison. It was always designed to make you feel less than. The insight you need to hold on to is this: the version of someone's life you see online is not their life. It is the version they chose to show. Behind every perfect post is a full human being with struggles, doubts, and ordinary Tuesday afternoons just like yours. Your life is not a performance. It is not in competition. It is simply yours. Number 10, rumination. You had a difficult conversation 3 days ago, and you've replayed it 47 times. You've thought about what you said, what you should have said, what they meant, what you should do now. And every time you replay it, it feels urgent. Like if you just think about it enough, you'll finally find the answer that makes the discomfort go away. This is rumination, and psychology describes it as one of the most significant contributors to anxiety, depression, and mental exhaustion. The deceptive thing about rumination is that it disguises itself as problem-solving. It feels productive because your brain is active. But research shows there's a critical difference between reflection, which moves you toward insight, and rumination, which loops you in circles without resolution. Studies show that rumination doesn't solve problems. It amplifies them. Every loop reinforces the emotional charge. Every replay makes the memory feel more threatening, more defining, more permanent than it actually is. The question that breaks the loop is not, "What does this mean about me?" The question that breaks the loop is, "What can I actually do?" Because action, even a small one, creates movement. And rumination has no room to breathe when you're moving forward. Here is what I want you to take away from all of this. These 10 thinking traps are not signs of weakness. They are not evidence that your mind is broken. They are, in fact, evidence of a mind that cares deeply about getting things right, about being accepted, about protecting itself from pain. Every one of these patterns was once useful. They developed for reasons. They protected you in ways you may not even remember needing protection. And now, as you become aware of them, you get to make a new choice. Not a perfect choice. Not an overnight transformation. Just a slightly more conscious relationship with your own thinking. Psychology doesn't ask you to never fall into these traps. It asks you to notice when you do, with curiosity instead of judgment, with understanding instead of shame. Mental clarity is not the absence of difficult thoughts. It is the ability to see your thoughts for what they are. Patterns, not facts. Habits, not truths. Stories your mind tells, not the final verdict on who you are. So here is the question I want to leave you with, and I'd genuinely love to read your answer in the comments below. Which of these 10 thinking traps showed up most in your life? And when you look back, what do you think it was trying to protect you from?